Good evening, I'm Benita from Books, and today I have Aria Pareek, who's a bestseller for our National Young Authors Fair UAE. She's written a wonderful book called The Lost Heritage of Harmonia. So, over to Aria. Aria, congratulations for this winning moment, and let's talk about your book. Tell us, a bit about yourself, Aria.
Hello, my name is Aria Pareek and I'm 11 years old. I'm in year 8. I like writing, reading, traveling, and playing guitar. And I'm really excited to talk a little bit more about my book, The Lost Heritage of Harmonia.
The Lost Heritage of Harmonia, and the book starts with a flower pot hibiscus. Can you tell us, what is the significance? Why did you pick up this particular flower?
I picked the hibiscus because in my culture, it's a very sacred flower. It's associated with the divine. So I thought that it would be really interesting to incorporate something from my culture, something that's very special to me, into this story. That's why I chose the hibiscus.
Tell us some more. Tell us some more. Something more about your story. Tell us how did you get the idea? What was the build up? Uh, how did you begin your writing?
So last year, I had mentioned that I had done a trial with no devices for a week in the summer vacation. And that's how I got inspired. That was the build up. And then when the school year started, a little bit after that, I started writing the story. Because when I saw that this is actually an issue, not just me watching too much screen in my home, but also outside, I could see many people watching their devices all the time. That took me a little further. That was the push I needed to really start writing. That was the build up of the story.
So you said that you were not using your devices, and that's how you got the idea. Tell me, what kind of differences do you feel, when we are, using devices um, on regular basis, and we're giving most of the time to, you know, these things, and when we are free from these devices, and what difference, because we've been on the both sides, right? So you can tell us what kind of different feeling you had, how much you felt your imagination got triggered, uh, what kind of thoughts and reflections you could kind of reflect upon or observe.
For the 1 week I wasn't using my devices, I felt a little more connected to my traditions and my family. I talked a lot with my friends and family more than I did when I used my device. And instead of just thinking about what was on my feed when I was watching, uh, different things on my device, I thought about something that's deeper. I thought about the habits and what's going on outside rather than just what's in my device. That was the biggest difference. Feeling that there are other things around me that I could do. And I also realized there's so many other wonderful activities that I could do, like painting, writing, reading, playing an instrument like my guitar. That was the biggest difference. So it was like a cleansing from the world of devices.
Wow, that's an experience, and like rightly said, it was like a cleansing, So I could gather, that when you were off devices, you were pondering upon what you could observe, right? Otherwise, when we are, driven through our devices, I think they kind of lead the way for us. Instead of our mind working, we let everything enter into our mind, which is like external, feed coming to us. So tell me, Arya, now that you were not using devices and you had this story idea, building up. How do you feel your writing has evolved? What kind of changes have you felt uh, have impacted your writing, your storytelling? Can you tell us more about it?
Uh, I think my writing has evolved from just writing about one genre to incorporating many different things into one story. And that's what enhances the story, and that's what makes the readers more engaged. For example, before I used to gravitate towards just narratives or just procedural writing. But this time I combined a fictional story with a real world problem. So that's how my writing evolved. And I also applied this in school in my English classes, and I felt like I became better as a writer when I incorporated these many things.
That's important for the story to connect its reader. So you must have, chats with your friends. There must be elements of stories where you needed some sort of uh, support, or probably you did. So tell me, how did it? What process this time changed for you, since you were more reflecting upon your observations, since you were more connected with your inner voice, right? So tell me, did you feel that the entire journey of writing the story became more enjoyable, or was it the other way around? Was it easy then, or you found it easy now when you're more listening to yourself?
I think it's easier now because I'm listening to myself and I used a problem that I can see and that I have done before, watching too much of my device. And I also incorporated healthy balances between family and tradition and watching your device, which is all things I've learned from different people I met and at school. So when I listened to my inner voice and gathered all the knowledge I've had from before, it was comparatively easier
Okay.
because I wasn't just writing about one thing and it was very subjective. But this time I could allow my imagination to go wild.
So there was a lot of freedom of thought. There was, I'm sure you were thinking more out of the box, because uh, these ideas were not generated, over a feed or maybe reading something. They were more coming from how you felt inside, the things that you wanted to see change, or you wanted to talk about them, right? In your story, you have a message for the reader also. So, tell me, in your story, what are the connecting points for a reader? What is the most important connecting point where you feel the reader would really would be eager to understand the story or read the next page?
I think the part where it really gets interesting is when the townspeople get their devices taken by Lydia and her parents, because it's a climax. You're wondering what will happen next. And then I wrote an analysis of how I perceived, like, when the device was taken away, how the people would react. Would they be disoriented? Would they be sad? Would they be panicking? And that's when the reader gets a real feel about what's going on in the outside world, while in a fictional story. So the reader gets the best of both worlds, and they get excited to know what's next.
Sorry, tell
Because
me, according to you, what is the right balanced approach? Since the industry could never stop the gadgets, right? That's why I said industry will never stop the gadgets. However, technology is important, because of technology involvement, you and me can talk about this particular topic, or we could have a wonderful book on our platform. We could have stories written by children all over the world. That's the positive part of technology that we have. Tell us, you're a eighth grader, and I'm sure there is like so much for you to explore, now. Tell me what, according to you, what should be the right approach? What should be the balance? And if we are getting more engrossed with the gadgets and we are somewhere forgetting that real self that we need to explore, then how can we mend that? How can we fix these things? What are the steps that can help us stay connected, use the technology, still be ourselves?
I think the first step is to know where you need to stop. Because if you continuously keep watching your device, then it will become negative because it could impact your health and it's not very good for you. But if you watch it sometimes, occasionally, and you talk to your friends, not every single day, but occasionally. For example, if they live in another country, then you need to use your device to talk to them, but occasionally. And that will allow you to spend more time with your friends and family and listen to yourself, you listen to your inner voice, observe more, because it depends on your approach of how to use a gadget. If you want it to be negative, then you'll watch it all the time. You'll think about what's on your feed and not about anything else. But if you want to take a positive approach, then you will use it occasionally and you'll know your limits, where you should stop, where your head hurts, where your eyes hurt, or where you need to stop to talk to your friends and family and feel connected. So that's
a
how.
balanced a balanced approach, being wise with the devices, being wise with the technology is the, I think, message that even your book talks about. So Arya, how do you feel? You've written story, you achieved an award, you have also, your book is also a bestseller. Tell me, what steps did you take to make it into the bestseller league one, and what were the difficulties? What were the challenges, and how did you overcome all that to be where you are?
So it all started from a real life event where I did the No Device Week, and that inspired me to write the story. And then I submitted my story, and then I became the bestseller. But I think the real challenge was the assumptions. When you assume that, oh, nobody will read my book, that shouldn't happen. That's what happened. You shouldn't be stressed. And that's how I overcame it because I know that someone will read it and they will feel inspired and they will feel connected and they will apply those concepts to real life. So the real challenge wasn't in writing the book or the real life event or what I observed. It was the assumptions that were made until I got to that point.
And how did you, work on this mindset? Because uh, obviously that the blockages are all. They say that the mountain is you. It's not the mountain. It's because we feel that we cannot move it, or we not worth it, or it's not going to make any difference. How did you? You're so young, you know. How did you convince yourself? How did you speak to yourself and say that I need to go on and I need to present this story. I need to be there.
I think it's because I believed I'm good at something because from a young age, I wrote lots and lots of stories. So that gave me confidence. And then when the assumptions and the stress started coming in, I had to tell myself that I believe that I'm good at something. It's confidence, not underconfidence, not overconfidence. Just reassure yourself that you think you're good at something rather than belittling yourself.
This is one of the, I think, most important takeaway from what we have discussed today in this podcast, that not overconfidence, not underconfidence, but having the confidence that there is something unique and there's something good about me, so it's this is something really important for today's kids, or even anybody, to know that having the confidence that I can do something which is good. So it's such a wonderful takeaway. Do you have any message for your leaders apart from the wonderful, message you have given through the podcast? Is there anybody you would want to thank in this journey of, storytelling that you have experienced, or any special moment you want us to know, or through this podcast you want everyone else to?
I want to thank you for having me here on this podcast. And I want to thank Bree Books for having a platform for young authors like me who aspire to write about their ideas. And I want to thank everybody who supported me along the way while I was writing my story. And I hope other children get inspired and write, because if you observe something in your day to day and you keep thinking about it, then it's an idea that you want to write about. And don't just think that no one will read it, because that's not the right mindset. Just write about it, and you never know what will happen one day. So don't assume anything, just believe.
Thank you so much, Aria, for coming to this podcast, for writing wonderful story, and also, giving us such a beautiful, meaningful message that can be applied in life. I really like the part when you said, "Don't just assume," which is uh, so meaningful. It is so deep for somebody to understand that, these are only the assumptions are the blockages. So thank you for this wonderful conversation. I again congratulate you, and I really bless you that you should continue your creative journey into writing, and really make the most out of this.
Thank you.